Gotcha. Well, let's jump into it right away.
Do it. Let's do
Don't
it.
want to keep people waiting for the material for the content. So, all right, we're talking about habits of rockstar PT owners, and what we found over the years defines a rockstar PT owner. The PT owner that is unstoppable, that gets things done, that meets goals, continually expands, continues to improve, is successful in clinic and the results, but also financially. What are you seeing, especially as you've been coaching the last couple of years and through your own experience, that what are some of the fundamental characteristics, traits, habits of rockstar PT owners?
Man, I love this topic, but I did jot down a few things. You know, maybe we get to them all, maybe we don't. But yeah, there's a difference between people who make it and people who don't, right? Not everybody makes it. And some people, like 99% of people in our program, typically make progress, more progress than they expect. However, some shoot off the charts, you know,
Mm-hmm.
some shoot off the charts and some are kind of in that middle tier.
Sure.
And so, but what I found is it has very little to do with talent.
Yeah.
I can tell you that it has very little to do with talent.
What do you mean by
Uh,
talent?
Savviness,
Yeah.
right? Your ability to like have marketing skills or sales skills or just skill sets. Like it's not a
Yeah.
particular skill set that I've
Okay.
noticed.
All right. Mm-hmm.
I think it really just comes down to habits,
Mm-hmm.
habits and routines that are very unique.
I'd even go not to override you at all, but to even take a step back, because a lot of the rock star people, maybe they don't have the initial habits, but they have the willingness, like they have the desire to structure their lives and to make sacrifices to get crap done, right? Um, in order to establish those habits. Because I look at someone like my partner, Will Humphreys,
Mhm.
and I hired him because, and I think I've told him this, but I don't think it's a surprise to him, but I did not hire him because he was a good physical therapist.
Mhm.
He'd been out of school for a few years. He'd done home health. I think he worked a little bit in outpatient, but I'm not sure. But he was going into an orthopedic outpatient setting, and he didn't have a lot of experience. But I knew that Will had number one, Will, he's got the personality. People are going to like him, right? And so he's going to attract people and people are going to like him. But he also had a desire like to get stuff done. It wasn't just, yeah, I want my own clinic someday because that'd be really nice. But no, I could tell that he wanted more out of life and he wanted to do more. There was a willingness is kind of a weak word for it, an inner desire. I saw it in you immediately when I started coaching you. And that was, hey, I want to rule the world. And that's different from Will. He wasn't like, I'm going to have clinics across Arizona. But I knew he had an innate desire. I could see a lot of myself in him. He just had an innate desire to do more, be more, expand. Um, and the clinic owners like you that do really well, and the superlative owners in our group are ones who you can tell they have a drive. It's not just, yeah, I want my clinic to be better and I want to provide really good physical therapy. No, it's more than that. Maybe I can't really put my finger on that exact word. Maybe it's grit. I know that's one of your values in your clinic. But they just had that innate desire to do more, be more, and the status quo wasn't cool enough.
Mhm. Yeah, I find that like everybody kind of has those core priorities in life.
Mm-hmm.
Like these are the top three most important things in my life that I'd be willing to die for.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would I would die for this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like your faith,
Mm-hmm.
family, your business. You know what I mean? Like and if there's something above that, like if it's like,
Country.
yeah, whatever. Like I really like to work out and exercise and stuff. It's like, yeah, I like that too. But like, so I think there's a there's like almost like a fear of failure, and
Totally.
and
Yeah.
a fear of failure, or like a hunger that,
Yeah.
and a desire that's just built inside of you that really can't be explained all the time, but like it's almost like you have to force yourself to stop working. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like you want it so bad that that hey, if I got to work on the weekends, I'm going to work on the weekends. If I got to work, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get it done.
Yeah. There is that attitude. And I think that's a little bit there is a fear because I want to talk a little bit about the people that we're not describing. So I'm sure there are people that are listening and are thinking, that's not me. I'm not hair on fire, gonna work all weekend and sacrifice everything to get this done. There are people out there that are listening, like, well, maybe I'm not the best PT owner if I don't have that innate drive or all consuming desire. Those people can be amazing physical therapy owners as well.
Of course.
But I'm talking about some people who it kind of comes naturally to do some of the stuff. Because I see myself as that person as I'm listening to you. I'm like, you know what? I didn't lose all my hair because my hair was on fire for my clinic, right? It's, I, I wanted to, I want to do more, be more, and expand. But as I started putting some structure into my life, and this is going back to what you said at first with
Right.
habits,
Mhm.
as I learned more and recognized that what I'm currently doing isn't getting me the results that I want, even though I couldn't totally iterate what those results were, even though I couldn't define exactly specifically what I wanted, it wasn't enough. I wasn't getting enough out of my clinic. I wasn't getting enough in my personal life. And so as I started reading, gaining more knowledge and putting some of that structure and those habits, like you're talking about, into place, my business started doing better. And for those people who are listening, like, hey, I'm not hair on fire type of person that's going to kill it every weekend and sacrifice everything. If they just not only got the knowledge, but just implement it, just start implementing things, implement structure, be disciplined enough to take the knowledge that you gained or the information that you receive from a coach and do the work. Just
Mhm.
consider you're not done with school now that you graduated from PT program. You need to pay the tuition and do the homework as an owner and as a leader now to learn what it means to be an owner, to become a better leader, and to create something that's better than you. And it takes just a little bit of discipline and establishing some of those habits, exactly like you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's funny, like as I hear you talking about that, it helps me get more and more clear on the topic. But like you said, like not everybody has that natural internal drive
Right.
to make things happen. And if you're not that person, no big deal. However, in order to create that, you're going to have to develop some external pieces in your life to kind of force you to move in that
Mm-hmm.
direction, right? So
Right. Yeah.
establishing some boundaries on how you behave, how you make decisions, what you prioritize, and creating structure and lots of discipline
Mm-hmm.
is kind of a way to externally create that environment for you to succeed, right?
Yeah, there are some like this is what successful people do type of actions.
Correct.
And I like to say, and I stole it from someone else, but you don't start acting like $1 million company once you make $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
You start acting like $1 million company now so that you can make $1 million, right? And so if you have a $200,000 annual revenue mindset, you're going to make $200,000. And if that's cool for you, then that's cool for you, right? But if you have a desire to do more, be more, make more money, provide more for your family, have some more freedom, you need to start acting differently. You need to start doing more, being more. And so for someone who doesn't have the innate desire, they just need to recognize that some of the things that come naturally to them need to change. They need to make
Correct.
different decisions. They've got to delegate to different people where you don't have the energy for certain things. You need to delegate those things that take energy from you and give it to someone else, because they'll actually start pushing you and pulling you along. I
Mm-hmm.
noticed that on some of my team, and maybe you have that in some of your leaders, is as I delegated roles and started developing a leadership team, they started pulling me along. Like, come on,
Mm-hmm.
Nathan, we can do more. We can be
Let's do it,
more.
buddy. Put a
Right.
foot on the
And
gas.
so
Yeah.
that's the beauty of a team, but just acting in a different way, even if you don't have the innate desire.
Yeah. And I think that like you mentioned earlier, like do the work.
Hmm.
Like I wrote down before this call, like show up, make the time, and do the work. Like if you establish it as important, get it done. You know what I mean? Like, and there's no like, I'm gonna get it done if there's no if. It's just
Right.
I'm gonna get it done, period. Unless it comes before my faith and my family. But all else aside, like I'm getting that sucker done.
Right.
I'm gonna build out that KPI dashboard. I'm gonna freaking create that email campaign. I'm gonna spend hours and hours trying to recruit if I need to. Like
Mhm.
whatever I say I'm gonna get done, I'm getting it done. Right.
And
Because
that's the tough
that's
part about this time of year, because here in a couple of weeks, people are going to have New Year's resolutions, right? And they make they're essentially making promises to themselves that they're not going to keep.
right.
And part of what you're talking about is, hey, I promised myself to do these things for the benefit of my clinic, but it's really easy to let yourself down and break a promise to yourself.
Yeah,
And
it's hard.
that's where it that's why I think having coaching, one-on-one personal coaching, or even a mastermind uh, that holds you accountable, because not all
Embracing
mastermind
accountability.
yeah,
Right.
not all masterminds are good at accountability. It's like, hey, rah rah each other kind of thing. But something that provides accountability, that says, hey, you promised yourself and me, your coach, that you were going to do these things for the benefit of your company. Are you going to get them done? Right. And so this time of year, it's good to have this kind of conversation to remind people, hey, it's more than just putting yourself out there and saying, I want to set these goals and then setting those off to the side and letting them collect dust on the shelf. Where's that accountability piece? If you're not good at keeping promises to yourself, I'm one of those people, then you need to put some structure in place. So and the reason I thought about that, because when you said, I've got to do this, I'm going to spend the time to do blank, right? For me, I have to put it on my calendar. And then I know, I look at tomorrow's calendar the night before, and I'm like, oh, that's right, I've got to do that. And if it doesn't work for me, then I'll change the time and move it around and you name it. But I'm going to put that action item on my calendar, even if it's on a Saturday or Sunday, so that I know it's there and I don't, number one, forget about it. But number two, I block out the time to get that thing done. And that helps out a ton.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways to develop habits, but like um writing it down, sh- you know, sharing your habit with an accountability partner. Maybe you have a spouse or a team member, and saying like, "Hey, I'm going to commit to this, and I give you permission to hold me accountable." Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, those are all really really great things. And the thing is, it's like you start small and you just get some wins, right? Stack some wins, and then you do it over and over and over and over, and then you eventually you start to prove to yourself, right, that you are disciplined. You start to identify like I am a disciplined person.
Right.
I say what I'm going to do and I do what I'm going to say, and you start to develop that mindset of like if I say it, I have to do it. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
uh and that's part of it. Part of it.
Yeah. Part of being that owner is to look forward, right? And this is an experience that I've had just recently. I'm creating this course to help PT owners increase reimbursements or revenues, right? It's a profits program. And I need to create these videos for the training. And I'm, I would say 70% done with the videos, the training, putting it on Thinkific. I've got the designer, he's working on it, all the resources and stuff like that. But this last module, it's a little bit more involved. It takes a little bit more explanation, you name it. And I've just been dragging my feet on doing it for
Mm-hmm.
like a month, maybe more. But I'm going out of town next week, and I'm going to be going out of town for a few weeks, and I want to get it done before I leave town.
Mm.
So looking, if I wasn't, and I bring that up simply because I knew there was a deadline. And so if there is this deadline, and this can be similar to having that coach in the upcoming one-on-one call, like I need to get this stuff done before. I just told myself, okay, I need to do this. I need to complete all this stuff within the next week. And having that deadline just was in my head every day. It has been. I'm not completely done, but I'm probably I'm 80%, 90% there. Um, but that helps helps me get things done by just looking ahead. Okay. I want to have it done by a certain time. I'm making promises to people that I'm going to have this product out to them by a certain time, or I need to hire. See, one thing as we're looking forward that you don't have time to do as a PT owner if you're treating all the time and it gets forgotten, is to look forward on the calendar at what's coming up. And it can be so valuable and so helpful if you have the space, if you take the time and the space to look forward on the calendar. So we had our group call yesterday, and we talked about, what are you guys doing to minimize cancellations during the holiday season? What are you guys going to do to minimize those same cancellations at the beginning of the year when the deductibles go to zero again, right? And I think one person said that they were talking to their patients now in the middle of December
Mm-hmm.
about what they're about the potential for holidays coming up and canceling, or deductibles going to zero, out of the, I don't know how many were on there, 10, 12, whatever. Um, but looking forward like that, that's your job. You're standing at the helm of the shit looking forward, and no one else is doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You're the owner. So a habit of a really good owner is someone who looks forward on the calendar. What needs to get done? What's coming up? Where are the rocks showing up? Christy in our group mentioned, hey, Medicare reimbursement's going down next year, and had a team meeting. How are we going to combat the declining reimbursement rates with Medicare? It wasn't just Christy thinking to herself, yeah, what am I going to do about it? No, she brought it forward to the team. This affects us
Mm-hmm.
all. Those are some of the rock star leadership qualities. And I'm not trying to tout myself. I gave myself or put myself up as an example of what deadlines and looking forward can do to move you forward and take action. But true leaders really look forward. You do the same thing. Come November every year, what do you guys do for your marketing?
We do the use it or lose it campaign.
Yeah, exactly. And you do that
Right.
every year,
Every year.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to go out every year. And when you get to that level of leadership where you have programs in place, now you're putting them on the calendar. Now you're talking about Jim Collins, Good to Great, pushing the flywheel,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The initial pushing of the flywheel is hard and it takes effort, and you're grinding and grinding and grinding. But as you keep going, it goes a little bit faster and a little bit faster and a little bit faster and a little bit faster, and it starts spinning, and all of a sudden that momentum starts pushing it itself, right? And it just takes a little bit of pushes after a while
Mm-hmm.
to keep it going. But right now, for most owners, as they're listening, it's a grind, and it's pushing through, and it's setting things up such that you can stand at the helm and look forward, taking the time away from patient care to look at the calendar, sitting down with your leadership team at the beginning of the month and saying, hey, what's coming up this month?
Mm-hmm.
What's coming up next month that we need to market for, plan for, birthdays that are coming up, holidays that we need to adjust for, you name it. That I think leaders who set themselves up such that they have that kind of time to look forward make huge strides in their company.
Yeah. I'm thinking about Sam Jackson right now.
Yeah.
Killing it.
Right.
The guy's crushing it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things he's done is he's stepped out of treatment. Step out. I believe he's
How long has he been an owner?
not even a year.
And he stepped out.
He
Nice.
stepped out. I think he's around like 3 days out. He's only treating like 2.5 days a week now.
Nice.
But the guy, he's got so much time to create and to be proactive and to get out ahead of those things and to identify his priorities and to hold himself accountable and to learn and to actually do the things that are important that are moving the needle in the business. You
Establish
know,
systems, put in
systems,
programs.
policy, marketing plan,
Right.
you know, everything that an owner should do. Like stepping out of treatment is so critical. And I actually have that written down, like stepping out and being proactive about
Mm,
the things that you're trying to create in your business, right? So like a lot of times it's like we there's this problem or a fire in the business erupts, right? And so okay, here we are, we're in the middle of the fire. Let's put it out real quick and then let's just keep going, right? Right? And then but the answer to that is no. Why did this fire happen?
Mhm.
Okay, why did that happen? Why did that happen? Right? And so now really you're trying to like look back and find the point in time in which the mistake occurred so that way you can be more proactive about it in the future.
Mhm.
And that takes a different type of like mindset. Like it's a different part of your brain.
It
And you
is.
can't you can't do that like while you're treating patients and answering emails and answering phone calls. Like you need some quiet time to sit down and think like zoom out a little bit so you can solve those problems. And then once you do that over and over and over, your business, the fires don't come up anymore. Right.
Right. Yeah. I love that you brought up that it takes a different part of your brain because it was so hard for me to come off the floor right into to my desk in my office and start working on business stuff. It was like the wheels just got all gunked up and stuck, and it's like a frozen engine. Um, for me at least, like it's just a completely different mindset. It's a shift. So when I tell people you need at least a half day to work on your business, yes, you do. It's really hard if that half day is immediately after patient care. It's got to be after some kind of decompression like lunch or whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
or even starting the day in a business mindset and then go to patient care.
Right.
That would probably be better, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know if you recognize the same thing, but it's taxing. It's hard to do. It's hard to get your mindset in a different space, and it takes a lot of energy to make that simply make that mental transition.
Mm-hmm.
So if people can spend a full day or start their day working on the business, I think that's even better.
Yeah. Yeah. I always recommend setting that deep work time.
Mm-hmm.
It's the cognitively intense, boring work that you need to be doing that you're not doing. That deep work time, most people would recommend that be earlier in the day
Mm-hmm.
and earlier in the week
Mm-hmm.
because that's when your energy levels are at its highest, right? As opposed to like so Monday morning compared to Friday evening, whole different whole different energy level at that point, right? So like
It's true.
right. So we want them early in the day, early in the week. That's the time you work on your business.
Right. Definitely. Yeah. And I think that what you're talking about there, creating habits, then can get you take that structure and put it in your admin time. So you do need to create habits. Tell me, what do you do so that you're not guided and dictated by your emails?
Yeah, so there's a few things that you can do, but we actually have a section in our training called time and attention mastery. Like that's how
Mhm.
important I think it is.
Right.
It's like so important. But it really comes back to designing your ideal workplace. Like
Mhm.
you be the designer. Write down. I bet you right now, if I ask anybody, like, what would be the most ideal place to work? It would be like if my emails were off and my phone was on silent in the other room, and I was in my office alone, and there was no people interrupting me. let's do that.
Let's set that up.
Let's create that. Right. So like take your phone, put it on silent, put it in the other room, right? Design your ideal scene, right? And create your environment, and then be disciplined enough to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens is we're so used to giving our time away. We give our time and attention away. We just give it away to the first urgent thing that comes up. And so you've created inadvertently, we create dependent relationships. Like
Right.
people are dependent on you because they just come to you with all their problems.
Right.
Right. And so when you start to say no, and you start putting boundaries on things like emails and phone calls and text messages and questions from your team, people are going to be like, well, whoa, what's going on? Right.
Oh, you used to
And
be available all the time.
right. And so like, I think it starts to, number one, like really kind of getting clear, like your time is valuable and your work, your self-worth is valuable enough to where like you need to have uninterrupted time.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
And there's probably only like two things in the world that would be a good reason for you to break that rule. And that would be like faith or family. Anything else, if it's not in a dire emergency, like I'll talk to you after my deep work time, you know?
Right.
And it comes down to like developing those habits.
Yeah. It definitely takes some discipline, whether you have that innate ability to have all the energy in the world, to work on your business, or you don't. You can't get away from the fact that you have to stay disciplined. Right.
Discipline equals freedom.
Right.
I feel like that's a book.
If it's not, it's going to be, right.
It should be. It should
Yeah.
be.
The guys who are just disciplined and working smart. Right. So discipline doesn't mean taking that admin time. The admin time in and of itself isn't what's important. If you're during your admin time, if you are cutting checks, catching up on your patient paperwork, let's see, maybe fixing something that is a piece of equipment during your admin time. Yeah, that's not admin time. That's not what we're talking about. You not only need to be disciplined in setting aside your time, but you also need be very specific and prioritize what you're doing during that time. That's a constant question going through my head every day. What is the most important thing I need to be doing?
Okay. Can we stop right there for a second?
Mm-hmm.
That's the most important question any CEO should ever. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Every single day or every single week, every single month at your cadence, you define the priority. You predefine the priority. And then you create boundaries around your time and attention to put all of your energy and motivation and resources towards whatever priority you set. And you do it week after week. I mean, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, I don't know about you, but like that's how you make progress. Like that's it. You know, what is the priority is the ultimate question.
Yeah. And if you haven't done some pre-work, then that answer is going to change a lot, and it shouldn't. Like if you've done, and what I mean by pre-work is if you establish some annual goals and priorities, those are the goals and priorities for the rest of the year in spite of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But if you're floating and day to day asking that question to yourself, well, you could fool yourself into thinking answering these emails is the most important thing I could be doing, when it really is, I don't know, establishing or building out the job description for my front desk, because they do whatever they want, whenever they want, and I don't know how to control them. I don't know. It could be something like that. Yeah, that's a lot more important. There, until you have a relatively solid policy and procedure manual and an employee handbook and job descriptions, I've done enough annual strategic planning sessions to know that that usually lands number one or two every year if it's
Yeah.
not already built
We need
out.
to beef up our policy.
Yeah, we need to build out our programs, policies, procedures, and systems, job descriptions, you name it, because everyone, it's hard to give someone a position and help them feel really clearly defined in their role if they don't have something written that you can reference or hold them accountable to. And so if you don't have those, that's way up there. And it's the crap work. It's not fun, it's a grind.
It's the
But
boring work.
just but make it piecemeal. Just say, yeah, it's the one most important thing, but you don't have to spend 5 hours every night doing it. You just commit to doing one job description a week. And within a few weeks, you probably covered all the job descriptions, right?
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
huge part of it right there. So I just say that asking that question, you could get fooled into thinking some things that are urgent are most
Not
important.
important. Right.
Yeah, right. Back to the
Right.
Stephen McCovey stuff. You might think
Mm-hmm.
if they're urgent, but they're not important. You want to stay in the important range and not be
Mm-hmm.
dictated by urgency, which is typically reactionary. And you want to set up your systems and policies such that you aren't living in the urgent realm and the reactionary realm, but working on the urgent stuff, or I'm sorry, the
Mm-hmm.
important stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. I had something so cool that I was going to tell you, and I completely forgot what it was. Oh, it was going to be good.
Oh, it was
Uh,
going to crush. I know.
it was going to crush, man.
Right.
I but yeah, I don't remember exactly what I was going to say, but you did hit on um learning about policy and procedure. You learned about some, urgent versus important. There's some principles in there that you're alluding to that don't, I mean, you have to learn those things,
Right.
right? You can't just like, you know, it's not when you turn 18, then you all of a sudden learn what policy and procedures are and what those things are, right? You have to learn those things, right? And so I wrote on my sheet, study,
Mm,
study, 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 read, 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 right? You've got to learn. You've got to become a master of your craft.
right.
And if you're not, always be studying. I mean, find a podcast that you love, find a book that you love, find a mentor that you can leverage, hire a coach, read a book, you know? And if you let's say you want to build out a KPI dashboard, play with it, get involved with it, put some numbers in there, create some scenarios. What if my clinic did this? What if my clinic did that? Well, if this happened, how could I improve it? And really engulf yourself in the material and know it inside, outside, upside down, backwards, because the people who know their stuff are the ones who can make really good decisions and
Mm-hmm.
stay in that important zone
Right.
a lot more often, right? And you'll have a leg up on your competition. You'll make a ton of progress, ton of progress.
Yeah, you're going back to one of the old mottos of my podcast, and that was reach out or step out, reach out, and network. Right. So we talked about getting away from patient care, setting aside admin time. That's stepping out of
Mm-hmm.
the technical aspect of PT. Reaching out is getting the knowledge. I say reaching out partially is a big portion of that is getting some coaching or consulting. But it's also, like you said, listening to podcasts, reading books, right? I love the quote, not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers.
Mm-hmm.
And so find the books. I mention them on the podcast every so often. But the third part of that motto is network.
I
Step
wrote that
out,
one
reach
down
out, and
too.
network, right? So if you don't know which books to read, then you tap into your network. If you don't know what KPIs are most important or what benchmarks are most important, tap into your network. Now, your network could be listening to a podcast, just like a bunch of other PT owners do. But that network could also could be a Facebook group of PT owners, like we have. If you're not part of the Physical Therapy Owners Club Facebook group, join it. You could join the peer-to-peer with APTA PPS. They have a peer-to-peer network every year that starts up, and you can be in a group with PT owners and share and learn, etc. But that's where you're talking about learning, constantly reading. And there are those people that constantly read but never implement. And hopefully you're not one of those. But I actually just did an episode a couple months ago on the podcast with Steve Edwards. He's been a longtime friend and coaching client. But I highlighted him because he sent me an email about the things that he had done because of podcast episodes that I had had.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I wonder how many people, how many listeners out there are making significant changes in their clinics after listening to episodes and not just gaining knowledge and doing nothing with it. I mean, that's not wise.
Well, it comes back to the discipline.
That's what a Rockstar PT owner does, is they take the knowledge and then implement it. They don't have to, you don't have to take everything out of my podcast and implement it that week and do the same thing the next week when the episode comes in. But for example, Steve Edwards, what really inspired him was an episode that I did with Steve Lines. And it was called like the 5-star experience or something like that. I'm sorry, Steve, if you're listening, but I don't remember the name of the book, but he got the book and then started implementing aspects of the book in his clinic and really transformed the patient experience such that his arrival rate went up and plan of care completion went up. That's what I'm talking about. You don't have to do everything, but take aspects of what you're learning, especially as you're reading track. If you're going through the first 100 pages of Traction and you don't, by Gino Wickman, and don't have your purpose and values and the beginnings of an org chart in place, then you're wasting your time reading the book. Like that's fundamental business stuff. So there is some of that where people can gain a lot of learning without getting anywhere, right? And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about making sure that learning is led to action.
Yeah. Jim Rohn is an old school personal development guy. You know who I'm talking about? And he said one thing that really kind of hit me. He said, work on yourself more than you work on your job.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you gotta be learning, man. You gotta be reading. You gotta be studying. You gotta grow yourself. You gotta grow your understanding and your perspective. And then you can take the knowledge and the awareness and the perspective, and you can insert it into your system of discipline that you've created, right?
Mm-hmm.
Showing up, doing the work, making the time, keeping the promises, embracing accountability.
Yep.
And then when you do that, the opposite, on the other side is results, right? Is fulfillment, is you manifesting what you wanted to create,
right?
You know?
Right.
Yeah. And so like developing those habits are huge.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the kind of thing where unfortunately my default when I lay down in bed is to pull up my phone and just,
yeah, me too. TikTok gets me.
It gets me. And that's the constant fight, is to pick up the book or pick up the phone.
Yeah.
I would be better served. And I'm sure Huberman has gone over the studies and whatnot of the blue light that you shouldn't be watching before you fall asleep and how it affects you. Right. Whereas reading the book, you're eventually going to fall asleep because your eyes just get tired, but you would be better served to read the book before you go to bed than picking up the phone and streaming. Right. Right. So that's a good time. There's plenty of time. How many minutes do you spend streaming before you fall asleep? And it would be better served reading.
Yeah.
Right?
Get an audio book, man. You can get audio books. There's all kinds of ways to go for a walk and kick on an audio book. 10 minutes a day. It'll change your life.
Yeah.
A year later, I'm sitting here thinking about like PTA who's PT owner A who's just like crushing life, right? And PT owner B who's kind of struggling. The only difference is PT owner A has just done more work. They've done more of the boring work. They've accumulated.
And they're willing to make more decisions and take
It's
action.
not a talent gap, typically. It's very similar skill sets, similar IQs. It's just like this guy, like is dialed in with his discipline and is committed to learning and growing and
Mhm.
implementing. And
Mhm.
he's accumulated more body of deep work, uninterrupted deep work.
Yeah. Do you find some of the owners that are quote unquote struggling or middling are aren't making decisions?
Well, yeah, not to a fault of their own. It's just that they like we're in our own way. Like you've developed a habit of the way that you approach problems and it's no longer serving you. And sometimes like I'm very guilty of it. Like I'll get on calls with potential clients or work with clients, and I want to make no mistake. Like if you ever work with me, I'm not doing the work for you.
Right.
Like you're doing the work. You're doing the work, not
Yeah.
me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so it's very easy to think like, oh, I've got this coach who's done it already. I'm just going to show up to the call and just let him like do all the deep work and like just
Yeah.
pull the questions, which that doesn't serve you though. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like
Mhm.
you only make progress whenever you make the best decision you possibly can. You calculate the decision, make the decision, and if you fail, who cares? You get back up, you learn, and you keep going, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yes, the ones that struggle do procrastinate. They're trying to find a sense of certainty in their decision that doesn't exist.
Right.
And so they're recalculating and calculating again, asking the same question, but in a different way.
Yeah.
And it's like, it sounds like you're really clear, like you just need to take action, you know?
Yeah. It's almost like they want to find some reason to keep doing the same thing and expect a different
Because it's
result.
comfortable,
Yeah. They don't want to get out of a comfort zone for sure.
comfortable. It's,
Right.
it's, it's predictable.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's like, I know what this does because if
Oh,
I
yeah.
work harder, if I just work harder and try harder, then I did that before and I created a clinic. Now, if I just try double harder, then I'll have two clinics. Uh-uh.
Different skill set.
A whole different skill set, right? It
Right.
takes a massive amount of discomfort and like change and like taking risk and embracing uncertainty, right?
Mhm.
And so, like, one of the things that I wrote down is be uncomfortable. You're gonna have to make decisions and you're gonna have to just trust your gut and you're gonna have to trust your coach and you're just gonna have to pull the trigger and go. And you're
Making,
just gonna
yeah,
have some sleepless nights. And you know what? You're gonna come out the other night way and you're gonna learn a lot from that. But like embrace discomfort. That's where the growth happens.
being comfortable with uncomfortability.
Yes. Be
Mhm.
uncomfortable. Like get in there and start swinging. Let's go.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm just writing down implement. This is what we talked about in the last 10 to 15 minutes. Implement, take risk, and be comfortable with being uncomfortable with making decisions without all the data. Yeah.
You
I
get
know
you
I did a disservice with one of my coaching clients because we spent probably 3 months of coaching calls talking about hiring another PT. And we couldn't go anywhere because it was his fear was just there. Like, I don't see how I'm going to make money with another PT on board. And all the things that could benefit from bringing on a PT and shuffling things around and opening up more time and space for him. And I had to come back to quite often, like, what do you want?
mm,
If you're happy with treating part time and your current financial situation and you're comfortable there, it's really hard to move someone off the really comfortable financial situation. Like that's the first line in Good to Great, right? Is good is the enemy of great.
mm,
So if
mm,
things are good, it's really nice to stay fat and
mm.
happy,
And
right?
it never stops either.
It never stops.
It never
So that's
stops.
yeah, getting taking risks and being comfortable with uncomfortability. Man, that's hard for me. I know my
It's hard for
tendency is
anybody.
to my wife's tendency, she loves change. She's like, she'd move every 2 or 3 years if it was up to her, just to see amazing places in the world and experience other homes in different places and stuff like that. I'm just like, oh no, we have to move
What's gonna
again.
happen?
We're really comfortable here.
What if we die? You know, it's
She
like,
was the one, she's the one that pushed me into PT ownership to begin with. Otherwise, I was pretty happy with a salaried position with benefits and all. Um, but that's the beauty of having that yin and yang, but it's necessary. Like I wouldn't be here without a lot of that.
it's
Getting
the
uncomfortable.
unavoidable component of growth, fear and discomfort. It's the part that everybody hates the most. But like I call it it's like a muscle though, like your
Yeah,
risk
you're right.
muscle, right?
Mhm.
Like, like the first time it's like, I got to spend $200 a month for somebody to host my website. Oh my God. Like I can't
What?
afford it, you know? Like, yeah, you can. And then it's
Yeah,
like, I got to hire a PT. It's like 10 grand a month. Oh my gosh, or whatever it is.
yeah,
And then it's like, I got to spend 30 grand. And then the numbers just keep growing and growing and growing,
that's right. Yep.
But then it's like, eventually it gets to the point where it's like, you start to, again, you start to prove to yourself, like, I can pull this off.
Yeah.
I'm
I,
calculated. I'm disciplined. I've surrounded myself with some people who are smart, got my network. I'm reading my books.
mhm.
I don't have all the answers, but I feel good about this. Let's roll.
Well, I love that you made the analogy to a muscle, because that's something that I've learned over time is now as I see something, I want to do this and I don't know how to do it and I'm uncomfortable. I'm really comfortable now looking for guidance in terms of a coach that's been there, done that, and is willing to teach me. 15 years ago, I wouldn't have paid the money for a coach. I was like, I'll
No
just figure it out.
way.
Not even,
No way.
or I just won't do that thing. Now I've done it enough. Now I've exercised that muscle enough and I have enough faith where I'm like, yeah, okay, someone's been there, done that. Someone's teaching people how to do it. I'll join the group. I'll join my mastermind and figure out a way to get it done. And it makes that decision and that path much more easy for me. It is a muscle that I've exercised enough that I'm willing to spend tens of $1,000s a year on coaching and consulting to get the results that I want, because I've done it enough.
Mm.
Yeah. So I like that you made that analogy, because for those people who are relatively comfortable but they know they want to do more, there are people that out there that have been there, done that, that will teach you. There are coaches like ours. There are other coaches out there for physical therapy owners that will teach you what it takes, because it's a fear of the unknown. It's a fear that I'm going to lose everything, or am I sacrificing everything just to do this one-off thing?
Mm-hmm.
um a lot of it is fear-based, right?
It's
And
all
in
fear.
our industry there's a lot of scarcity mindset because of the thin profit margins, and understandably so. But there are people who are succeeding and flourishing in spite of those situations.
Yeah. It's almost, as I heard you talk, I thought about myself, my experience with working with coaches and whatnot. And it's almost to the point now where it almost seems irresponsible because they'll tell me something and I'll just, okay. And I'll just do it. Like I won't even think about it anymore because I trust that process so much. And, and it helps, man. It's like the, the quicker I can go from instruction to implementation, the faster I can grow.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Mhm.
So you just got to trust it, man. You got to
Yeah,
trust it.
exactly. We spent a lot of time on it. Were there any habits or traits that you think we missed? I mean, there's
Well,
plenty out there. We
yeah.
could
Well, I mean,
talk for hours.
yeah. I mean, I enjoy this topic. But we pretty much hit them all the ones that I kind of thought of. The only other one that I kind of wrote down was make the investment, which we kind of hit on that with the risk. It's like spend the money.
Yeah.
Like I get how I can't tell you how many times like and so like if you're a one PT owner, let's say you're at like 30 to 40 visits a week and you've got a front desk. That's that's probably where a lot of people are at, right?
Yeah.
The mistake that we make, guilty as charged here, is that we think we've got something to lose
Mm.
at that point, right? Like we think that there's like we think somewhere in our mind, we kind of convinced ourselves that it's like what we have at this point is like a lot to lose. And it's like, no, we got to go way bigger. You know what I mean? Like we got to start thinking way bigger, like, and helping them realize like we're just getting this party started. You know what I mean? Like we've got to double down on this sucker
Mhm.
until we get to where our passive income exceeds what we're currently making, you know?
Right.
So
Mhm.
it's like we got to think way more. We got to think 10x.
Yeah.
That
Exactly.
helps that helps me with the investment piece.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about investments because the physical therapists, and I think it was Jamie Schreier that pointed this out. Physical therapists spent probably close to $100,000, and on average, a lot more, $150,000 to get their physical therapy education,
Mm-hmm.
with no guarantee of passing the boards, no guarantee of finding a job that could justify their investment. Yet they did it, right? And so it's weird that they'll express fear towards an investment when they already did that. They already did it once, right? With getting a physical therapy education that promised them nothing, no promises, no refunds, right? And
Well,
so
you can't blame the system.
yeah, exactly.
Like
And they will take no blame, right?
like when you're going into the PT school, it's like you're investing in the system.
Right.
When you're it's all on you.
Yeah.
You're investing in yourself.
Well, yeah, now there's a
Like
lot of fear
you got
that
to pull it off now,
am I
buddy.
gonna, yeah, can I trust myself to
It's
actually
really
pursue
a it's
this?
really a fear of like, can I really pull this off?
That's true. It's really
You know what I
questioning
mean?
themselves. That's true. Yeah. And so the, to, and not to uh, reiterate this too much, but one book that was influential for me this year was 10x is easier than 2x. And it goes back to the thought where, okay, if I just keep doing a lot of the same things twice as hard, then I'll get two times the results,
Mm-hmm.
right? No, that's not how it goes. In fact, and that's the premise of the book, is that if your actions were actions of someone that's doing 10 times what you're currently doing, like you're making $200,000 a year right now, if you took on the actions and made the decisions of a $2 million a year revenue company, then you would easily get past $400,000 in annual revenue a lot faster than if you just focused on the $400,000 in revenue, because
Right.
$400,000 is close enough that you just do a lot of the same stuff over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
a little
Mm-hmm.
bit harder, right? And yeah, you'll gradually inch your way up to $400,000, but you make the investment into, I'm going to 10x this thing. The questions to get there and the decisions that you have to make to get to $2 million are completely different and will transform your business.
Right.
So I liked your um, your comment about mindset and investment, because it takes a completely different mindset, a different amount of investment to make significant transformational changes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that hits the nail on the head, man.
Did we just wrap it up?
I ain't got nothing else to
I'm
say.
just kidding. Just kidding. Cool, man. All right. So for those, this will be on the podcast. I think this is going to be one of my first podcasts of the new year, as I'm looking at the key.
Nice.
Yeah. So we'll have to get back together and talk about some topics that are related to what owners need to think about in the new year and how they need to come into a fresh new start. But if people want to get a hold of us, like I said before, get on the group page on Facebook, reach out to Adam or I on LinkedIn, and check out ptoclub.com, where you can find out a little bit about us, find the podcast episodes, and also schedule an appointment to book a call with us and get a free consult and see where you're at in your business. If we can help, great. If not, we'll direct you where you need to go. So anything else you want to add after that, Adam?
That's it, buddy. Sounds good. I enjoyed it.
Cool, man. Thanks for joining today. This is awesome.
It was. It was.
Yeah. Have a great Christmas.
You too. Bye, Nathan.